This is ZEISS Presents Full Exposure, the weekly resource for news, trends, and the people who influence the world of photography and cinematography. Hosted by veteran photographer and filmmaker Jim Kamp.
On episode 16 of Full Exposure, we met Sean Weiner and several filmmakers from the Creative Culture program at the Jacobins Media Center in New York. On today's show, we caught up with some of the filmmakers in Park City, Utah at the 2019 Sundance Film Festival. Sean and our crew spoke with them to get their thoughts as they attended one of the biggest film festivals on the circuit.
Hey everybody, my name's Sean Weiner. I'm the director of the Creative Culture program at the Jacobins Film Center. It's a fellowship and residencies program, and every year we support 12 filmmakers on making 2 short films over the course of a year each. We support filmmakers working in documentary and animation and narrative, and they all work together in a place where they decide to put collaboration above competition and stretch each other into interesting new creative directions. And they become a unit unto themselves, their own network, and then they get to kind of move out into the film industry and change the types of people who get to appear not just in front of the lens, but also behind the cameras making the films. So part of becoming a great filmmaker and a professional filmmaker is learning the professional side of things, or the industry side of things. And so we have a commitment to bringing those filmmakers out here to Park City during the Sundance Film Festival and having them learn how to network, take professional development opportunities, meet other filmmakers, see films that are being celebrated at the festival, and get in touch with that kind of next spot in their career that they're just kind of marching steadily towards. So we're going to meet a bunch of the filmmakers today. We're going to hear from their experience and see what they've been up to at the fest.
Hi, my name is Jalena Keane-Lee, and I'm a Creative Culture Fellow and a documentary filmmaker, and I'm working on a project about a young woman of color who is working to destigmatize periods.
Hello, my name is Moira Fett, and I am a Creative Culture Fellow working on a narrative short film called Practice, which is set at an all-girls school, but there's an otherworldly twist on it. They're being surveilled through body cameras. And it's about these 2 young girls' relationship and a moment of intimacy they share, and the way in which this oppressive environment sort of drives their friendship apart. We've been at Sundance now for 2 days, and so far it's been a really great experience. We've already been talking to people. We've had a roundtable discussion with ZEISS about the movies that we're making, and we've seen some of our friends who have films here. And we've met a bunch of really cool people in the industry.
In the next few days, we're going to be seeing a lot more films, and I think that's one of the best things about being at Sundance. I think that's why everyone comes to Sundance, and super excited to draw inspiration and learn new filmmaking techniques, both from the films and from talking with the filmmakers. That's another great thing about this place. It feels like an equalizer for all different kinds of people, and you could be sitting right next to a director, a producer, an EP, or a PA, and everyone is very willing to talk to you and hang out. And I think that's the kind of culture and community that Creative Culture has embedded in us, and so it's really great to be able to take that out of Westchester and out of New York and bring it here to Park City.
I'm hoping that this week I meet new filmmakers and creatives that share similar interests to me and have similar goals with the work that they're doing. It would be great to meet some really great women working in the industry who share an affinity for the style and the sort of otherworldly tone that I'm going for in my own work. So.
Yeah, and just echoing what Maura said, I think it's a great opportunity to meet not only emerging filmmakers, but also really established filmmakers and see the kind of things that they're producing. And as young filmmakers, we're always asked about who are our references, what are the styles that we're inspired from and the people that we're inspired from. And this is really the place to not only see the new works of these people, meet people that we had never heard of before, and also get a chance to have face-to-face with them, which is really rare and a really great thing about this experience.
Right now we're here with Creative Culture, which is a group of young filmmakers who are all part of this fellowship run by the Jacobins Film Center. And we're all here. Some of us are in our first semester and some of us are in our second. And really what we're doing is making movies that are sort of refining our voices and telling stories that are very personal to us.
Creative Culture is a program that we apply to, and then we get selected, and it's a year-long process. So we've been together for a really long time, and there's new cohorts that cycle in, so we get to meet new people as well. And it's a really great bonding experience for us to all be here as a group and seeing new films together and having all these experiences together. These words like underrepresented, diversity, when it comes to filmmaking have become buzzwords in the industry. And luckily, they've come to the attention of a lot of people high up, which is really great, but a lot of times it's kind of hollow in the meaning. But with creative culture, it's not just something that's talked about, it's not just something that's on the brochures or anything like that, it's actually put into practice through the entire process. And so up in Westchester, that's something that we really learn about, supporting each other, to create really different works. And that's one of my favorite parts about the fellowship. We all come up with such different kind of stories, some that speak to our own personal experience and some that are completely separate from our personal experience. And to me, that's what diversity and underrepresented voices really means. And the Jacobins Film Center Creative Culture Program is a way for underrepresented voices to get a leg up in the industry, where otherwise you would have finances from your parents or family connections or some other connections that would get you to this place specifically. But luckily we have the Creative Culture Program that got us here. And it's been really inspiring to see how it's become a wider industry trend to really recognize these voices. And something that we recognize is that sometimes these voices are wanted, but there's not a lot of the work that's put into developing us and giving us the platforms to learn about how to be a director, how to work with other people, how to do filmmaking, basically. And so Sundance is a really great experience to kind of experience the end goal for a lot of people, or one of the things that could be kind of like the cherry on top of hard work. And then the Creative Culture Program is a really great way for us to like hone in on those skills and develop those skills.
I'll just touch briefly on that as well. I think one thing that's really great is having people who are coming from different perspectives and different backgrounds than you in the room with you in these early stages of the creative process. And they don't necessarily have like a role on your film, but they're very much involved in what you're doing and bring a lot of perspective, and also so they're really elevating your work just by being there and giving their input and their perspective on the story that you're telling. And then they also help just broaden your own mind and introduce you to new ideas and ways of thinking of things. Yeah.
And it really helps develop us as a viewer too, and like a critique of film, because we work so closely on each other's films. Like I was just looking at the program, I was like, oh, Moira, this is a great Moira film, you have to see it. And we know each other's styles, but also we're open to seeing things from all different reaches and about all different topics.
My name is Brit Fryer, and I'm currently working on a hybrid personal documentary about the first person I ever dated in middle school. So that's what I'm working on. Mostly I make experimental hybrid movies that are personal in nature, that sort of deal with topics around gender and race, and issues that relate to me. I think it's just really important to come and meet filmmakers that are my age, that are out here making work, when it's really hard to make work without, adequate resources, and finding people who are finding ways to make really beautiful and amazing things with like similar things that you have. So I think the value of coming is collaboration, especially like within the Ignite program, like seeing other filmmakers that are my age is huge. I think that like the films that are at Sundance and the films that are at Creative Culture are sort of like they're mirrors of each other, and that like at Sundance it's like here are the people that have been like trying to tell these stories for a really long time, and they finally have gotten a chance to tell them on like a really big platform. And like the films we're kind of making in Creative Culture are like those films, but like a few years earlier. Like we're all trying to say the same things, and it's like how long have you been trying to tell this story? So I feel like they're both really interesting platforms for people who are like, no, I'm here, and I'm trying to tell you this thing. But they're just different stages and platforms of like how we're telling the stories. But I think thematically there's a lot of similarities in the films that are like in the festival, and the films that are in Creative Culture, and the films that are being supported by the Institute, and the films that are being supported by the Burns. So as someone that like graduated in 2015 and made like their last film in 2015, like it kind of felt like, yeah, that was the last thing I'm gonna make. And without the support of the Burns, like I don't think I would have made anything sort of like on my own. it's hard to make work when you've only made work within the realms of an institution like school to make work on your own. So I think places like the Burns really bridge that gap between like, this isn't school, but like, here are some resources, here is some support to make things, because like we believe in your voice, and we're gonna give you resources to make it happen. So for me, it's been huge, because like, I don't know how I would have made movies without the support of the Burns. And that's not just in terms of like monetary support, but and equipment. It's like, I don't know who I would have made movies with. Because when I moved from Minnesota to New York, I was like, well, I moved here, but I don't really know anyone who's in New York. Like I moved where the industry is, but I don't know anyone here. So for me, the Burns has been a place where I've met people. I've met people who want to make movies like the movies I'm making, and I've gotten resources, I've gotten support to make the kind of things that I want to make. Meeting the other filmmakers has been huge, because my background is mostly in like installation art and video art. So meeting people that are like pure documentary or like pure narrative filmmakers has been so informative for my process. Like I want to make things that are directly in this hybrid of these two forms. So like to meet people that are like, this is my specialty and this is my specialty has been huge. Because yeah, they bring so much information, they bring so much value. They understand like their place in their medium so clearly. So that's been just super helpful to hear like, you know, advice on like, how do I interview people? How do I shoot this? And just having people like look at your work with their eyes of like, this is what what they specialize in has been important. I think the most important thing is to think about, it sounds like, narcissistic, but like think about yourself when you're making your films. Like when you're writing a script, like you're writing that script because you want to write it. Like there is something so specific to your experience as a filmmaker and as a person that like is informing every single thing you do and every single choice you make, even if you're like an editor or a DP. Like we bring our full selves to everything we make. And the more you lean into that, the more your work is special. Like the more you tell your own, not even your own story, but the more you put yourself in it, the more it becomes like this unique thing that like no one else can make. And that's like what we want the most. Like everyone is looking for like the thing that no one else can make. And the only thing you can make is like the thing that's about you, or like that you've thought about in terms of your own voice. So I think bringing your full self to your work is really important.
My name is César Martínez. I'm interested in working in like the documentary genre as a filmmaker, and I'm currently working on a film about the Chapo trial and how images are made about that trial and how the trial has been represented.
And I'm Lydia Cornett. I also work in documentary film, and I'm working on an observational portrait about a man named Yves who has a very multifaceted life as a concierge, art dealer, violinist, and philanthropist. So we just had the opportunity to be interviewed by ZEISS, and that was pretty, I think, interesting for both of us, just because we are both new fellows at the Jacobins Film Center, and we're working on our first project. So to have that type of exposure at a festival is pretty unique and exciting. It was an opportunity for each of us to hear each other speak about the elements that we're all thinking about in our own productions, but hear more from each other about kind of how those things function in each of our films.
I think what was really valuable too is that it was really a forum for us to start to practice the type of language we need to use when we're talking about our own projects, especially when it comes to something as specific as cinematography. So you may be asked about the direction or the editing or the music in your project, but when you're asked about something very specific like cinematography, you do really have to emphasize how visual language tells the story that you're telling in the unique way that it's being told. I think coming to Sundance is an eye-opening experience because one, you're seeing what types of films are entering what is one of the largest film festivals in the entire world. But on top of that, you're really seeing how filmmakers do have to have a step-by-step process to be able to accomplish something like a Sundance premiere. You don't appear out of nowhere really, but you work for a very long time and you develop a voice and you develop a craft that eventually will land you in a place like Sundance. On top of that, it's really interesting to see that this is as much a festival as it really is a conference for a lot of people in the film world, in the independent film world, to convene and to really have conversations about where independent filmmakers, both documentary and narrative, can start to think about telling stories in different ways and think about telling stories in challenging and progressive ways as well.
I'd also add it's just really interesting to see what's being programmed, and it's especially for us as filmmakers just to see the types of content that are paired with each other, what is maybe a subject for a feature, what is a short, what at Sundance makes up a block. These are all things that are really new to me and just are very valuable in thinking about finishing my own film. So we're both in the Creative Culture program at the Jacobins Film Center, which is a program that places a lot of emphasis on inclusive storytelling and also collaboration amongst the fellows. And to be at Sundance and see, first of all, two of the program's films here and the particular subject matter of these two films represented at a major film festival is really encouraging as we finish both of our first projects in the fellowship, and kind of see the stories that we want to be telling represented here. I think it's really kind of a testament to the festival itself and just the evolution of documentary storytelling in general.
I think that an institution like the Burns does take a risk with filmmakers like us that are young, emerging filmmakers that come from diverse places, diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences. And that investment is really reassurance, and that we can tell stories through different lenses, that we can tell stories in different genres and in different methods, and feel secure that what we're trying to say and that what we're trying to do is not only progressive, but worthwhile and important. So making a film can be a very lonely experience, but through the Jacobins community and the Creative Culture Fellowship and all the interactions that we can have with one another and all of the collaboration and the support that we experience from our mentor, Sean, and from all the peers in the program, really doesn't make filmmaking feel like a lonely experience. It makes it feel like an experience where we're celebrating each other's successes, we're supporting each other through each other's difficulties, and we are really rooting for each other's projects in ways that I think are rare in spaces for emerging filmmakers.
And I would add, not only is it just supportive place, a place for kind of sharing your own work, but really when you're in this intimate space with 7 other people who are trying to accomplish the same task, you learn a lot because everyone has different specialties. People come from different backgrounds. People have different areas of interest that they for their films, and that I think is invaluable just in terms of just learning how to be a better filmmaker. You learn the most from other people, from watching their work, from hearing them talk about what they've learned on a shoot rather than just being in front of a computer or staring at your edit. So I've really just valued kind of learning from all of the different perspectives that are represented at the Creative Culture program. Part of the reason that the Creative Culture program at the Jacobins Film Center has been so instrumental to my growth is because it's practice focused, and there's a real emphasis on creating work. And so programs that are not just about learning a particular skill or maybe theory based, but really where there's an expectation to complete a project, I think are the best learning experiences for emerging filmmakers. So I would just encourage filmmakers to seek out, if it's not a program to create more work, just make more work, because it's the development of that portfolio that I think really brings more opportunities.
And I would say that your growth as a filmmaker is never linear, and you're never going to make something better than the last thing you made. You're only going to learn from the experiences you had in the past, and whether that makes it better or worse is, I think, a question that doesn't really have to even be included. You're just going to continue to make things that you should enjoy making. Filmmaking shouldn't be a process of superseding the last thing you did. It should be a process of really enjoying what you do.
So that was some words from our filmmaker fellows sharing with you what they've been up to here in Park City at the Sundance Film Festival. We were fortunate enough to have 2 films, Lavender and Edgecombe, featured at this year's festival from our program. And some of these folks that you just met will be working on films that will get selected at places like this festival and other top festivals around the world. And that'll just jettison them into their next phase and turn them into the next filmmakers that you're showing up at the cinemas to see. Have a good one. Thanks.
Our thanks to Sean and the fellows from Creative Culture who gave us a taste of Sundance, and congratulations to all the students.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us next time for another edition of ZEISS Full Exposure. If you can't watch, you can always catch the audio-only version on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at ZEISS_Full Exposure or on the web at ZEISSFullExposure.com. And to learn more about the latest in ZEISS lenses, head to ZEISS.com.